Oh, KKR somehow emerged triumphant from under the tyranny of Eoin Morgan's reign of absolute terror. Eoin Morgan was sent in to ruin this franchise, if I can tell from my Twitter feed and some of the comments on this channel. And somehow the mighty Bengali spirit rose up and it destroyed Eoin Morgan. Okay, that may be not true, but you get the point. Do you think sometimes we say some silly things on the internet, don't we? Bowl first, Jarrod, Kimber, let us talk about KKR versus the Kings. Let's talk about Kolkata's bowlers first, because for all the talk about Eoin Morgan's bad form and Gill's bad form, the bowlers have been terrible in this series. Absolutely terrible. And they were not terrible today. In fact, they took wickets, which is something that they have not really done for a very long time. Marvy has come in. He obviously didn't start the tournament. He did very well, I thought, at times. He was in the last tournament or the tournament before. He just looks like a much better bowler, though, to me now. Interesting that they didn't start with him. I thought his opening spell was good. And if you can use him specifically in the sort of Chahar role of the power play, I think that's going to suit him very well. That's going to be tough for Kolkata at times because they still don't have death bowling, of which we will talk about a little bit. But I certainly thought that they bowled very well. Cummins went for runs today, although I think I'm right in saying he went for 2 sixes for top edges. So maybe his runs weren't as bad. But the important thing is he took wickets, which he hasn't looked like doing for a long time. The partnership of Narine and Chakravarthy in the middle looked ridiculously good, I thought. It's interesting, isn't it? Chakravarthy's, he's the flavour of the month and everyone really likes him because of what he did last year. But he's never actually bowled with this Narine. He's had to bowl with the sort of the damaged Narine. The Narine who wasn't quite on top of his game. He's now bowling with a Narine who is really good. And I think that helps Chakravarthy for a lot of different reasons. One is Chakravarthy does go for runs. He's not a lower economy bowler, even though he's a very skillful bowler. I think his economy in general is a little bit higher than what you would like. But when you pair that with Narine, who is generally a low economy bowler, I think that really works well together. The fact that Narine took 2 wickets today, I mean, it feels like he didn't take 2 wickets all of last season. That's a slight bit of hyperbole there, microphone. But you get my general point. I really, really did like that pairing for them. Prasidh Krishna, who I just thought, get him away from that power play. With Marvy there, I just think that's awesome because Marvy's going to take those overs. You can get Krishna in the middle. He's a natural wicket taker. We know that. He just doesn't suit the power play for whatever reason. Get him in the middle. He could take some wickets. This whole bowling lineup, let's forget Andre Russell for a minute. This whole bowling lineup can work together. It's still not going to be good at the death. I think that's going to be a problem. I mean, look at them today. The Kings dragged themselves into the death with like missing limbs, and Chris Jordan hit them everywhere. I mean, that's a problem. Interesting that Russell didn't bowl it over at the death today. But I just think that this is a much better bowling lineup up until probably that last 4 overs, and there can still be some problems there. But finally, it looked like a good bowling lineup. But let's look at the batting. If you remember back when I was talking about Kolkata, I said that essentially what they needed was more runs from their top 4. Now, 2 of their top 4 failed today, but the other 2 both scored in the 40s. And it shows. I know this was a small chase. It was a tricky chase because of the pitch, although we don't know how much the pitch played a role in this. But it just shows that when your top 4, you get a couple of them actually get in. It just makes a huge difference. And I know that it's not technically a top 4 today because I think Morgan batted at 5. But you get my general point. When 2 of your top 4 regular batters, because obviously Narine is a different kind of player, make runs, it just completely changes it. And they weren't chasing a lot. I get all that. I just want to talk about Rahul Tripathi because I'm such a big fan of the way that he plays. Incredible that he's never averaged over 30. And yet he's built this career. And I think that in this particular side, I think he should be opening. I think it suits his skill set better. But also, if he does open, I think that means it takes a little bit of pressure off Rana having to score quickly. Rana can just bat the way he does, and that's kind of what you would like him to do. And I think in that situation, Tripathi really works well. That sort of combination works very well together. I thought his innings today was just really good. One thing I like about him is he attacked all the bowlers. Obviously, he came in very early. They were, 17 for 3 at one stage there. So really, really falling apart there. Generally, what batters do, especially limited batters like him who average about 25, they usually pick and choose who they attack. If you go back and you have a look, other than those first couple of balls from the opening bowlers, he went after everyone. And if you think about this attack, there was off spin, there was the leg spin, there was left arm seam, and there was a right arm seam. I really like that. That means that he's got a really good mindset and quite a well-rounded game. So there was a lot to like from his innings there. The other thing I like about him potentially opening is you could open with him, and the games when he doesn't come off, and because he's only averaging 25, he probably isn't going to come off that often. You can actually then just pop Narine in, I think. And I really like that. You then have that ability to sort of go with both of them. And you almost say between them, if they average about 35 to 40 and they're striking anywhere between 140 to 180, I think it's a really, really good partnership they can do there. You could also bat them together. That would be fun. And as you can see there, that means I've kind of talked about changing the Kolkata batting lineup a little bit. I don't mean drop Gill. I've seen some ridiculous comments about Gill. Someone said the other day, he's clearly only ever going to make runs overseas. Clearly what? What? What gives you that impression? I really don't understand. People are just so quick to judge these guys. And it's like the talent with young Indian batters. If you're turning on all these guys, remember, people turned on Pant, people turned on Shaw. They both look okay now, don't they? So, no, I think, though, that he's just better suited to the middle overs. Batting him at 3/4, having Morgan behind him. I think that's a really, really interesting way to go. You could even bat him at 4 sometimes and him at 5 sometimes and Morgan depending on matchups. I really think there's a lot there. He hasn't made any runs yet. That's T20 cricket. Sometimes you don't make any runs. Let's not make wild accusations based on a couple of failures from an obviously talented player. Let's have a look at the Kings here because they would have wanted to win this. Kolkata were struggling. Also, this is a 4-point game, isn't it? Because essentially, I can't see how the Kings are playing for anything other than 4th spot. We don't know what Mumbai's going to do. We don't know what the Sunrisers or Kolkata are going to do long term. There's a lot of talent in those teams. And essentially, I think those 3 teams are going to be the ones that are going to be the hardest to beat for that 4th spot. So you want to beat them when you go up against them. They continue to open the bowling with Moises Henriques, and good on them because I completely don't understand it, but it worked. In fact, Moises Henriques' bowling is absolutely bizarre in this tournament. He seems to have his best deliveries when he bowls full tosses. Do you remember when he was bowling full tosses to Rohit Sharma and he was just knocking them to fielders without any care? Now he's bowled a full toss and he's got a wicket off it. I'm not even sure Moises Henriques should use the pitch anymore. He's got more wickets this season. I think he has the last 3 Big Bash seasons combined. It's phenomenal, but ride that crazy horse. But when I talk about the Kings and I talk about their lack of balance, and I talk about it a lot, and I will continue to talk about it a lot, I think it comes back to the fact that they are having to use Moises Henriques in a role that he doesn't do anywhere else in any other form of cricket. Moises Henriques hasn't been the sort of guy you would give the new ball to in almost 10 years. And it's made even more weird by the fact that at the start of this tournament, they had Jai Richardson batting at number 7 and they had Riley Meredith bowling. They spent a lot of money on those 2 guys. And yet here we are very early on in the tournament and they have already gone back to 2 guys they had on their roster already. Much cheaper players in Chris Jordan and Moises Henriques. And they're doing it partly because Moises Henriques and Chris Jordan actually boost their batting a little bit, as we saw with Jordan today. And Henriques is clearly a much better, I think he batted number 6 today, but he was down to bat number 7. Much better number 7 than they have in Jai Richardson. So it shows again the sort of mistakes that they have made consistently in their original roster setup and also what they did at this particular auction. But their batting, I don't know what to say, really. I mean, they've managed to collapse in this game while trying not to collapse. That's not a particularly easy thing to do in T20 cricket, especially against a team who's not known for taking a lot of wickets. It's weird that they managed to do this. They batted so within themselves at the start. They had the handbrake on. They might have even taken the tyres off and had that whole car up on bricks at stages at the start of that innings. It was obviously a tough pitch as it proved all the way through. But then their ability to lose wickets in the middle, to spin and seam, it was bad. Very, very bad for them. They are not a bowling team. Chris Jordan is not the biggest wicket taker in the world. Huda and Henriques are part-timers. This is a team that needs to make a lot of runs. And I think that's why they tried to keep wickets in hand. And they still didn't manage to do it. This was a very poor game from them. They'll be extremely disappointed in that. But not you. You won't be disappointed because you'll be able to come back tomorrow and hear me say all the same things about 2 more teams. I'm pointing over there because that's what the list is, not because I don't know. Bowl first, Jarrod Kimber. See you tomorrow.